So, good morning, everyone. This is our training session on dTris and ACALive for December 13th. My name's Cameron Regan. I'm president of MEC Timing, which runs all of the software you see here. So if you have any questions or concerns during the season, please just reach out to me and I'll be more than happy to help you or guide you along the way. So previously last week we looked at the measure software, which is sort of the RA piece of the puzzle. So that's creating the start list, creating the racers, printing them all out. That's not going to be covered in this session. We're just looking at dTris, which we use for running the race on race day, and ACALive, which we use to communicate with the live timing software, the Alpine ACALive website, to show broadcast timing results for the world. So the first thing that we need to do to start a race usually is a start list, as well as if it is a race that we are looking at having live timing for, we need to know what the codex is, as well as if there's what the codex says, and if there isn't one, then we can create one ourselves. So there's 4 different levels of codexes. So there would be a national, like a FIS codex. There's a national codex, which is given out by Alpine Points, a recreational codex, which is given out by Alpine Points, and an MEC codex, which is one that we, as MEC Timing, we generate. So if you are running a FIS race, you need to use a FIS codex. If you're using a national race, it would be a national pointed race or a race that is going to be uploaded to Alpine Points. You need to use either a rec or a nat codex. Those can be provided by the RA. And then the last one is an MEC codex. The MEC codex, you can put whatever you want in there. So if you have Doug's Waste Disposal coming over for a race and they want to show their results on live timing, you can create a race for them, and that will be on our live timing site. To create a codex, we can go to the live timing site, so live-timing.ca. From there, you can go into admin, and you can say request either. So if it is a national or recreational codex, you would want to create a national race. Here you would type in your codex, your email address, so that the information about the codex is sent to you, and then the start time for run 1 and run 2. The codex, so the interface between the live timing site and Alpine Points, is about a day of delay. So it takes we pull in all of the codexes every midnight, so that it's easier for us to generate this information. So if someone's told you that a codex is created, it might take a day for it to be in the system. Yeah, Vance? So if it is a 1-run race, you can just put the same time for run 2, and it will automatically set it as a 1-run race. So if we go to request other race, this would be where we put in all of the information. So all of this information is usually pulled directly from the Alpine Points, but because we're generating a race, you have to select it yourself. So codex. So the 2 things that I'll point out here, one is codex. If you're doing a FIS race, you put in the FIS codex. If it's a mech race that you want, type in MEC, so just MEC, and the system will automatically generate a new mech codex and email that codex to you. The only other thing is FIS upload port always has to be 0. Other than that, you put in your information. So when the race date is run 1, run 2 time. If that is a 1 run race, you can just put the same run time for both. You pick the PSO, club, gender, discipline. Down here is it a best of race? So we do have some races that are best of. So instead of having run 1 plus run 2 as your total time, it will actually generate the results based on whichever is best of run 1 or run 2, and provide that as your ranking results. And then email address so that you get the information. So what I'll do is, let me just put in, and we'll say that today, and we're going to say request password. Okay, I'll look at that a little bit later. So if we go into, let me just see if I can get one of these emails for you. Find one a little bit later. So once we have that information, you'll be provided with a codex and a password in your ACALive software. So all of the software can be found on MEC Timing's website. So if you scroll all the way down to the bottom, we have a quick software links. So you can download current version of dTris, current version of ACALive, install them, and you're good to go. So once we have ACALive installed, I can go File, Create or New, and then I type in the codex and password that I was provided through the email that I got. What I'm going to do today, and what you guys can do as well, is you can just say Create Test Codex. And that will allow you to type in just some generic information, and it will automatically go and generate a brand new codex that we can use, and that can be shown on the test section of the live timing site. So right now ACALive is now set up and just waiting for dTris to start and for us to start our race. So for dTris, you need to have your dongle plugged in, and then you can open up dTris. Once you're in dTris, you can just say File, New Race. So we can pick whatever race you want. So let me just create a new folder. dTris only has 3 files. There is the .cfg, which is the configuration. You don't need to worry about that. There's just a .dtr, which is data for this race, and then there's a .log, and the .log is actually the log file that is all of the changes and all of the things that have happened during the race. That data can also be printed out to a parallel printer, but a lot of people just forego that. It's a lot of paper to use, and you can just view it on your computer either during the race or after the race. So I'm going to call this, so every club has their own standard for how they want things timed or things set up. I usually just do the date and then the discipline, gender, and then where it is. So now we get through 20 questions where you have to pick all of the answers that you want. So for right now, we're going to say, what is the race disciplined? So I'm going to say this one is a GS. How many runs? So we're going to say it's a 2-run race. Start method, individual or dual. We're going to want individual. Do you want to run with intermediates or speed traps? So that would be if you wanted to have like an eye halfway down the hill, or a push start calculation, or a finish speed. So I'm going to say no for this race. Is this a pair event? Nope. So this on dTris, to keep the race at the right cadence, we have a timer just beside the racer that's on gate, and this start interval is what that resets to when a racer starts the race. So theoretically, having a start interval of 30 means that you should have a racer leave the start gate every 30 seconds. That would be something that the TD or the race chief of course would tell you what the interval should be. This is editable during the race. It doesn't actually matter what you put in here, it's just there to give you a little bit of a nudge to know when a race should occur, or a racer should leave the gate. Maximum, so this is the maximum time on course. This would be how many seconds or minutes and seconds a racer should be on course. This just gives you a visual indication on the screen if someone goes above that, just to give you an idea that there might be something wrong, like that racer might have fallen and they should have come down the course, but they're not. Same thing with this one. So this is minimum time on course. So if there's a minimum time, then if someone finishes before the minimum time, it gives you an alert, or it gives you a beep and a warning. So this is just so that, like, if a racer just started from the start, and then another coach goes through the finish line, it gives you an indication that this racer only was on the course for 12 seconds instead of the recommended 25 or 40. Delay required for start. So what this does is when the start wand opens, sometimes it can chatter a little and you can get multiple pulses. So we limit it to 1 pulse every 5 seconds for the start. This can be changed to whatever you want it to be, but this sort of gives you make sure that if, for example, the racer starts, they open the start gate, and then the starter closes it, but then it chatters a little and it starts another racer. That won't happen in this case. Same thing for finish. This is defaulted to 0.3. That's where we usually leave it. Sometimes you can get like super heavy snow, and that can actually cause the eyes to trip, stuff like that. So we sort of leave it at 0.3. Are we going to interface with ACALive? So if you're not doing live timing, you can just say no. If you are, let's click yes. So it says enter the IP address of the ACALive Manager PC. So our recommendation is that ACALive is run on a different computer than the timing is run on. I do all my testing with both of them on the exact same computer, and that's what I'm going to be showing you here today. Perfectly valid, but the reason why we request that it's on 2 different computers is because the person who's doing the timing should be doing timing, period, and they shouldn't be looking at the ACALive, sending comments saying, we have a hold, that sort of thing. It should be when they're doing the timing, that's what their main job is to making sure that all racers have the correct race results. So when we ask for the IP address on ACALive, we list all of the different IP addresses that we have on the computer. 9 times out of 10, you'll only have one. So we pick the first one. So we put the IP address in. So number of categories. So this is the number of distinct groups of racers that will be running in the race. So for example, you'd have 4 runners, so that's one group. Then you'd have men, that's another group, and maybe females, so that would be 3 groups. Sorry about that. So what we would do is, I'll just do 2 categories for now. So we'll say, okay. So these are entering category, or the bibs for category. So your RA has given you a start list. That start list will then have the bibs on it. So you just say, I want bibs 1 to 100. We can say add. And we can say category 1 is done. Are bibs padded? So padding is something that is inherent to current dTris, just because you can only ever have in it one bib 1. So if you are using 2 1 to 100 bib lots, you'll have to pad one of them. So right now we are using bib 1 to 100, and we are saying that no, these are not padded, because that's the only numbers that we're looking at. We usually say that if you're using 1 to 100 on 2 different races, it's easier just to set up 2 dTris files, one for men, one for women, so that you don't have to deal with the padding problem. Because padding, it sounds simple, but it can confuse people. So we're going to say, are these padded? No, they're not. Is this a forerunner category? So we ask this question because forerunner data does not get sent to ACALive or to the display board. So is this a forerunner category? No, it is not. Are you sure? Yes. Then this asks you to put in the codex for that particular group. So because we're using this one, I'll type in the codex that is on that current race. So that is ZZZ 275. Category 2. So the bib numbers, you can put in whatever bib numbers you want, and they start in order. So if you really, if you had a randomized start list, you could theoretically just put in every bib in order, and they would come out in order. But what we would, so you can go, if we wanted to, we're doing forerunners now. So for our forerunners, I just like using 400. So 401, that sort of thing. So if I wanted to, I could go 410 to 410, add that, and then I could go 401 to 401. So that would put forerunner 410, then 401, and then I can say 405 to 409. So now we have, in category 2, the order is going to be 401, or 410, 401, 405 to 409. So it's very powerful how you can actually build the category. But if you really want to just keep it simple, you can just go 1 to 100 or 401 to 410. So we're going to say that category 2 is done. Are these bib numbers padded? Nope. Is this a forerunner category? Yes. Are you sure? Yes. So that's the generation of your race data. Does anyone have any questions about that so far? Yes. So ski cross is a completely different ballgame with. So you can do it either way. So one takes more time. So if you have a wacky start list, you can either spend the time to input them in order on the categories page, or you can just do F1 to put the racer in the gate on the day or while the race is running. You can do either, and those will both work equally the same. Yeah. So the 400 series, yes, they would technically be padded by 400, but because they are a Forerunner category, that data goes absolutely nowhere. So we don't really care what that data is. That is, the Forerunners are literally just there to validate that the course is doing well as the timing is correct. Yeah, so the padding is there so that it looks like when you import racer data, if you were importing a list of Forerunners and you would want that to be padded by 400 because someone would have written Forerunner 1 is this person. So when you pad the racer, it subtracts the 400 out of it so that it can map the correct racer 1 to racer 1. If we're not doing anything to that effect, then there's really not a reason to do the padding. Yes, and that's usually what we do as well. Is we usually just say Forerunners and a category that we are timing, whether that be male or female. So, and then each race will have two different dTris files. Yes, so the maximum number of racers that you can have in one dTris file is 999. No. So I have not seen that display board gets locked up with bib numbers over 500. Yep. Perfect. So now we've created our race. Now we have to configure our timers and our displays. So if we go to choose device, we can say choose timer. And now we got a whole list of all the different timers you have. That will probably be either someone will know what timer you have, or you can just look at it and it should have one of these names on it. My sort of gut instinct is telling me that most of you will either have an algae S4 or an algae timey. Some might have a race time too. So you pick the one that you have, and then, so I have a timey, so I'm just going to click timey, and then you say pick the COM port that is on it, that you are, that the timer is connected to. Usually it all sort of depends on how your computer's set up, but the easiest way to do it is you plug it in to one of them into your COM port, and then you pick the first one, you hit OK, and then you can say test timer pulse, and you can transmit it. You can click the button or tap the wires together, and if you get a confirmation that says S0 and the time, then you've got the right one. We usually, for hardwired COM ports are best. We do have, we do support USB to serial adapters. And if you get some of the StarTech ones are really good because they have what's called COM holding. So every time, sometimes when you plug it into a computer, it'll actually auto increment the COM port that it's connecting to. So it might go up to like COM port 200. So if you get one that has the COM hold, when you plug it in, it'll always stay to the same COM port. So we have up here my timey selected. So I'm done with that. Display board. So we can have up to 2 display boards running that are completely separate. So you pick the display board. I have no display board, so I'm just going to say no display board. You can also test. So if you click, so hold on, let me just pick one for right now. So if you type in the bib and the time, it'll go to your display board and it'll show you the data so that you can see if your display board is working properly. Yes, Vance. That's actually a really good trick, Vance. So what Vance said was to plug in your timer, set it up, look at the list of COM ports that comes up, then exit out, unplug it, and then look at the list again, and whichever COM port is unplugged, then that would be the one that you pick. So I'm going to say no display board, exit. Next is configure timer. So configure timer is allowing for, yes, John? Yes, you can run 2 different display boards. Yes, they can be on separate baud rates. No problem. So timer configuration is where we assign the pulses that come out of the timer, and we assign them to where they occur in the race. So the easiest way to deal with this would be set up your timer, connect it to all of your start and finish, and then ask your starter to open the start gate, and there'll be a little printout, or on the display it'll show what just happened, and it will be SZ or C0 or CO01, and then write that down so that you know that whenever the start opens, you'll get that C0 or C01, and then have someone walk through the finish, and you can check that as well. So for mine, it's SZ and K0. So I'm going to hit OK. So then F4 is load racers. So you can actually upload the racers data, or the racers based on bib number, from either a measures file that was provided by the RA or from a CSV. I don't have one for the race that we're running right now, so we'll just leave it with the racer default racer names. So sync time. So this just makes sure that the computer that you're running is running at the same time as the stopwatch or the timer is. So it asks you a couple questions, and then it asks you to touch the start pulse or open the start gate to get the system started. So it says, is this timer connected in time of day mode? Yes. Do you want to print it to a printer? Sometimes yes. I don't have one set up, so I'm not going to say no. And then it says, please press their start. So it now says that I was synchronized at 12:33. So I can just click exit. Do you want to put this in another file? Sometimes some people like to see the same synchronization in multiple files. It doesn't really matter per se because it's the timers that need to be synchronized, not the actual dTris files. So I'm going to say no. So now we're ready to run the race. If you want to see the categories, we can just look at F7 show categories. So you can see 1 to 100 and our category 2. So now we can go into time race. So if I go into time race, the system asks you if you want to do a backup before starting each run. That is because starting a new run is irreversible in dTris. So if there are problems, having the backup beforehand allows you to redo the starting of the run. So for this one, I'll say yes, and I'm just going to say before run. What run 1? Start new run 1, yes. Do I want to invert the start order? So right now we put in the start order as bib 1 to 100. If I invert it, it'll be 100 to 1. So I'm going to say no. Do you want to log activity to log or to printer and log file? So I'm going to say log only. So now we have our timing screen. So if I hit, so we have the buttons down here. These are all of our different things that we can do in the race. You can use the function F keys. So you can either press the in gate, or you can hit F1 and it will load the dialog as well. So I'm going to say I want to load category by typing in 0, and then I want to load category 1 because I want my racers. So now if you've seen, we've got data going to ACALive. So we've got all of our racers there. And at the bottom here, we have dTris connection is connected. So that's telling you that dTris is connecting and talking to ACALive. So if I say, so we can, right now, if you have any starts or finishes, it will not change anything on the race. I can either double click these, or I can use the Alt-I and A. So if I go start, we have a racer on course. And then we can finish. If I look at ACALive, it says your race is getting correct data. Do you want to start sending it? Yes. There are some racers with default names. So it's seeing that I haven't loaded racer names. So it's asking, do you still want to send that data? And I go, yes. So now, if I go to the live timing and I go to test races, I scroll all the way down to the bottom, I have 275, which is the race that we're doing right now. So we can see that I have racer 1 just finished, I have racer 2 in gate, and racer 1 just finished. So we have live data going directly to the site. Now racer 2 started, but that actually wasn't racer 2, that was the start. The starter accidentally kicking the start wand. So we can say Control S to put them back in the gate. Vance, I should have you run this. So we have racer 2 on course, and then a bird flies through the finish. That actually has happened. So that wasn't actually racer 2 finishing, so I can say Control F, and that puts the racer back on course. So, and it doesn't change when they started, so they it keeps running the time from when they actually started. So then racer 2 finishes. My starter says racer 5 is in gate now, so I can say F1, 5, and that puts racer 5 in gate. and then we get word from the starter that racer 7 is a did not start. So you can say F4, racer 7. So that puts racer 7 as a did not start. We can start racer 5. And then racer 5 falls. So yes, that's a good point, Vance, is that DNSing racers should probably be done at the end of the race once the race is closed, rather than during the race. Yes, John? Yeah. So, as you can see, racer 5 is turned red, and that's because they've gone over that 1 minute and 10-second mark. So, where's racer 5 while we were talking? They fell and they're out of the course, so I can DNF them, so that is an F9. So, or I can just click the button and I can say racer 9. Oh, sorry. So racer 9 is not on course. It's racer 5. And racer 5 is DNF'd. If you got lots of snow and they're doing a bunch of slipping, and you've got you don't want racers to come through the for a bunch of finishes to come through when the slippers all come through the finish line, you can say A to arm and disarm the finish line. So right now, if there's any finishes, they show up as an unassigned finish. So you can actually take this and assign it to someone if you want, or you can just clear them. So does anyone have any questions about this? The one thing that I would... Yes, they do. So the unassigned finishes do show up on the logs. Correct. Yes, John? That's something that we can talk about after. This is more of a training session rather than feature requests. So So for an announcer, we have the ACALive, which has all of that data. And if we go into view, we can say show commentator last racers. And let me just finish a racer. So what this actually shows, Well, it's all the same data, and it's almost instantaneous for whether it's the timing screen or the announcer screen. So really, it's six or half dozen of the other. Um, so does anyone have any questions about the timing screen? The one thing that I would say is just play around with it for an hour or two before you actually start running a race, just so that you feel a little bit comfortable with where the hotkeys are and things like that, because in my experience, timing is hours of sheer boredom and seconds of sheer terror. So if everything goes right, you've got all the racers there, then the dTris will actually run the race itself. But it's when you start getting people coming in out of order, or people missing gates or overtaking, that's when things start to get a little hairy. So just having a little bit of time allows for you to know what's going on. The seconds of terror. So if so, my suggestion is that yes, there is the ability to do a live edit. So I can say F7, and I can say racer 6, and this allows you to edit all of the information about that racer. I would suggest you just make a note of it and you do it after the race, because while you're sitting here on the screen, other stuff is happening on the course, and it would just be, it's beneficial. You've got you've already got two problems and you know what it is. If you edit it, you might have more that you don't realize because you spent all the time looking at the edit screen. Yes, exactly. When your course is 2 minutes long, you've got a little bit of time to make a change, rather than our 20 or 30 second courses. Yes. So at the end of so we've finished all the races, or finished all the racers. We can say F10 to dump and exit. Do you want to dump these results to a file? So after we have done our timing, we want to dump these to a file so that they can be given to the RA to load into measures and create second run start lists, and to create the race results. So we'll say yes. So we want measures ASCII file format. You can do directly to measures, which actually like injects the race times right into an RCR file, or other ASCII format, which creates a CSV. So we're going to say measures ASCII file format. So discipline is GS. We're going to say both for gender. Is this correct? Yes. And we're going to save it in the same folder. And I want to add category 1. Do I want to append another category? Do I want to add another category worth of racers? And I'm going to say no. Output is complete. So now we have a race file that we can use. Yes. So you would probably want to wait. So if you can exit out of the run without doing a dump. And then if you go into F8 utility menu, you can say output race results to a result system, and you get right back to the same system, so that you can dump after you make your edits. So if you go F7 to edit, we can say racer 5, and we can say DSQ, so we can edit their racer to be disqualified. Yes, John? Yeah, that's fine. Do you remember it now? Oh, okay. So now you've had your protest period, you've got edited your DNFs and your DNSs, and your disqualifications. Now we want to go into run 2. So in run 2, yes, John? So is it necessary to provide a output file after run 1 to the RA? The only time that it is necessary is if the run 2 start list is based on run 1 finish times. That's the only time. It not necessarily, you don't need to, but it's up to the RA how they want to do it. So if they feel more comfortable that they get both of them, then so if you are providing an output before the protest period is finished, it is on the RA to manually edit the DSQs in measures rather than. As I always say, is live timing is just the unofficial results. It does not mean anything. It's whatever comes out of the RA's printer that is what the results are at the end of the day. I get it. I know that some parents don't see it that way. So the last thing that I wanted to show is starting run 2. And then after that we can take some time for any other questions that you have. So I'm just going to open a different race that has a couple more racers in it. So here you can see that I've done the full race. So I have my first one. I have this one is before run 1 was started, and this is before run 2. So I'm going to open this one. So I'm going to say time race. Do I want to continue run 1? No. Do I want to start a new run 2? Yes. Do I want to make a copy? I'm going to say no to this because I'm using the backup. So I'm going to say no. Right. You cannot go back. Yes. Did you edit all the DSQs and appropriate? This always has to be yes. If you say no, it's just going to kick you back out because you didn't do the work, and it's going to say you need to edit the DSQs. So if you don't know what the DSQs are, just like John was saying, if you're pushing forward without the DSQs, technically you have inputted the DSQs because there are no DSQs set up yet. Yes. So if you sort all dTris knows all. So sort all categories by run 1 finish order. So we can say yes, but I'm going to say no. So you can sort every category together, or it goes through individually and asks you information about each one. So I'm going to just say no. Sort all categories in run 1 start order. No. Sort category 1 in finish order. So I want category 1, which is my racers data, like the actual race data, in finish order. So I'm going to say yes. How many racers am I going to reverse? So I'm going to say 5 because this was a small race. Sort category 2 in run 1 finish order. So category 2, if you remember, is our forerunners. We want it doesn't really matter what order the forerunners are in, because you shouldn't be correlating the forerunner data. But for right now, just to show that we can set up two different start orders, I'll say that they need to be in the exact same start order. So I'm going to say sort category 1 in finish order. No. If run 1 was inverted, you must invert again to make run 2 the same. So I'm going to say no. Include all category 2 racers from run 1, whether they DNF'd or not permitted to start or disqualified. So this is for some of the younger races. For FIS races, if you didn't finish the first run, you don't get a second run. If you, in this lower races, if you didn't finish the first run, you get a second run. So you can either include or exclude the did not finishes. So I'm going to say include all of them, yes. And then this shows you, you can read this, and this tells you what the start order is. So category run 1, run 2 has run 1 finish order with 5 racers reversed. Category 2 has run 1 start order, including the DNSs, DNFs, not permitted start, and disqualifications. Is this correct? If you say no, you can go through this whole process again, but I'm going to say yes. Last chance. There's a lot of are you sure's in dTris. I'm going to say log only, and then if I go F1, 0. And then that's our start order for run 2 for category 1. So does anyone have any questions? Yes. So does anyone have any other questions about dTris or ACALive or live timing? Yeah, into the yes, you can. So you can, as long as you type MEC in the codex for request other race, it'll generate an MEC codex that you can use whenever you want. No, it should be like 5 minutes. If Alpine Ontario says we've added a codex for a race, it usually takes about 24 hours for that race to show up in live timing for an Alpine points race. They all go to the same place now. Yes. So MEC races used to go to a separate website, but now they're all on the same website. Yeah. Okay. Well, if that's it. But both versions are the same as last year. There isn't a new update for this year. Same as. Perfect. So thank you all for joining. If you have any questions, please just reach out. Probably in 4 or 5 days, I'll have an upload of this training to YouTube, which I'll send out the link to everyone so that you guys can review this at your leisure. Please, if you have any questions, just reach out to me, and we'll Have a great ski season and hope to be talking to you guys soon.